Come, come, whoever you are. We are all welcome here. All genders, all forms of love, all ways to speak, and all abilities are welcome here. No exceptions. Your age, your size, the color of your eyes, the color of your hair or your skin, every part of us, inside and out, is welcome here. You are welcome with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Once I was a stranger to this place and I found a deep welcome. My heart was glad. Each Sunday now, it is renewed again and again. Together, we are a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. Happy Easter to all gathered this morning. My name is Matthew Morris. My pronouns are he and him. I am a very tall, bearded man in a wonderful sweater that I've gotten multiple compliments on today. And I even coordinated my glasses with my shoes. It is my privilege to serve as the worship associate for this morning's worship. Today marks the end of Holy Week for many people in the West, a week of reflection and remembrance for Christians about the life and teachings of Jesus, his death, and resurrection. As Unitarian Universalists, we are descended from this tradition, and it is our practice to honor this heritage and make holy space for inquiry, insight, and the development of wisdom through our interaction with this story and its themes of a courageous love and enduring hope in humanity. So, wherever you are this morning in relation to this story and the tradition it rests in, know this: you are welcome here. Some announcements. The Interfaith March for Justice, next Sunday, April 27th at the Utah Capitol, with a march to Washington Square. Meet at 1:15 here if you'd like to carpool, or join us at the Capitol starting at 2 p.m. We have 10 faith communities joining us, so let's turn up and show our pride for democracy by wearing your favorite color of the rainbow.
Good morning. Naomi and I are the duo. So my name's Kim, though, but Naomi is sitting next to me. We are announcing the BIPOC meeting happening in 2 weeks. For anybody that identifies as BIPOC, it'll be downstairs after church on May 4th. We have up the QR code and information here. And the QR code is also available in the happenings. The QR code is available for you to RSVP on, so we can see how many people are coming, because lunch will be provided. And the happenings, if you don't already know, is an email newsletter that me and Naomi from South Valley, that me and Naomi can also help set you up with if you come and see us after church. That is everything. Thanks, guys.
Please remain standing for the lighting of our chalice, and I'd like to invite Aaron to come forward to help us light our chalice. Please join me in saying our offertory, our chalice lighting words. We're not quite there yet. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. You may be seated. Good morning again as you settle into this space made sacred by our collective presence over decades in the past and in the decades to come. I am the Reverend Lora Young. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am a tall, red-haired person with purple glasses, a white cardigan, and a cream-colored stool with a chalice and flowers on it. It is my joy to gather with you this morning on this spring day that is not quite sunny yet, but hopefully will be sunny a little bit later for our hunt for justice. As Matthew mentioned earlier in the service, this is a day we set aside to speak more forthrightly about our heritage as Unitarians and Universalists, which descends from the Christian tradition. You'll notice on our chalice today is in the shape of a double circle, and that is in reference to the combination of the Unitarians and the Universalists, as well as the Universalist symbol that was popular before we became UUs officially, in which the cross was put to the side to make more space for other wisdom. So when you see this is our sort of call out to Christianity is still in and among us and is part of our heritage, and we make space for other wisdom traditions to be part of that as well. But since it is Easter, I'm going to share a reading for you to create a space for us. This comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 1 through 12, and it is written, "But on the first day of the week at early dawn, they went to the tomb, taking the spices they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground, but the men said to them, 'Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be handed over to the hands of sinners and crucified, and on the 3rd day rise again.' Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and to all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen clothes by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened." That is our reading for this morning. And now I'd like to invite the children to come forward for a story with Matthew.
So today, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you guys about what it means to be a good friend. Friendship is a very important part of my life. I like to consider my wife my best friend, just as an example of a friendship. But I would really like to hear from you guys some ideas about what it means to be a really good friend. Who's got some ideas for me? Jordan. Jaden, I'm sorry, I can't read very well. When you help each other, that's a great answer. Who else? Ren. Taking care of each other and being there for each other when they're sad or angry. That's a great one. Yes. Listening to people. I really like that one. Listening is so important. Jaden, go again, come on. Tell me. Putting others first. That's wonderful too. I want to take a moment and talk about listening to people. Putting others first could be called a sacrifice, you're right. So why is it important to listen to people to be a good friend? What does that mean? Exactly. If you don't listen to people, you don't know what's going on in their lives. And to give someone the chance to talk to you, to just be there and be an ear, be someone who's willing to listen, is a great, wonderful gift we can give. Jaden. We can listen by listening the first time. Wow, I really like that. You're absolutely right. It takes my wife telling me to do something 3 or 4 times sometimes. Is that listening the first time? No, it's not, is it? Does your mom ever have to tell you to do something more than once? Well, you've done it one time. Good for you. So we're learning that listening the first time is a way to be a good friend. Hi.
When my mom says something to me, but I don't listen the first time, she just says it 3 times, and then I just yell at her because she doesn't, because I couldn't hear and she doesn't even say it another time.
Yeah, that can be hard sometimes, can't it? So listening seems like it's really a core part of what it means to be a good friend. I would argue a good partner. Listening is how you get an insight into somebody else's world. There's no way to know what's going on in somebody else's life without listening to them. And why would we want to know what's going on in somebody else's life? Why is that important? Ren. Yeah, so you can be there for them in both the good and the bad ways, right? Not the bad ways, but in the good and the bad times, right? What are you thinking? Jaden, what are you thinking? You can take care of them when they're having rough times and emotions. That's wonderful. How do we take care of our friends? By putting them first. Yeah. By asking them what's wrong. And then when they tell you what's wrong, what do? Give them a hug. That's a great idea. What other options do we have?
Depending on what's happening, there are several different ways to fix things, but if you know what's happening, then that doesn't mean you know, like, there's some ways that definitely won't work and might make the problem worse.
So if you know what's happening, you can know what won't work in a given situation. Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. And another thing to think about, I think, is whether it's important to have to fix things for people. We can just be there for them. And being there is such a wonderful gift. Jaden. When you're sad or mad, you can ask them what they need, and they can tell us. Yeah, not just assuming we know what people need, but asking them what it is they need. That's a great way to be a good friend. Yes. Asking if they can give you a hug. We've got multiple requests for hugs today. I think hugs are very important. And being a good friend, we've been able to kind of sum up here, is listening to people, being there for them, being willing to give them the hug, asking them what they need. Does that sound like a pretty good description of what we've talked about today? Yeah? What did they forget? Laughing with your friends. I don't laugh enough with my friends.
We'll do some laughing yoga later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do? Good. Keep it up. Laughing is something that is wonderful. Laughing is a medicine. You are just full of wisdom. Yes. Playing, absolutely. That's so cool. Yes. No, we're not going to do a story. We're just doing this. And this is it. You guys have been such a great audience. I really appreciate your participation. Thank you so much for listening to me and talking with me. I really enjoyed this. This community, our church, and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this we are grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the world outside. Part of our ministry at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. This month's giving partner is Comunidades Unidas. Founded in 1999, CU fights to build the social and political power of people who identify as Latinx immigrants, including undocumented folks living in Utah. Please join me in reading our offertory words. They are printed in your order of service. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together, we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. We will now accept the offering. For those at home, you are invited to use the giving link in the online order of service. I invite the ushers to come forward at this time.
At this time, we're going to participate in a ritual we're going to call Hope in Hand. For those of you who have been here for the last couple of weeks in succession, we have been using our Joys and Sorrows rocks for a extended form of ritual. The first Sunday, we received rocks from our Joys and Sorrow bowl and held them in our hand and then returned them. And today, when you came in, you received those rocks, or if you haven't, now would be a really good time to go grab a rock from the back, so that each person has a rock that has been held by another person in this community. And we're now going to do what I'm affectionately calling a complex friendship exchange. And as you do this, notice that this rock has been held not just by other people in this community, but has been held over thousands and thousands of years in its formation. It has had many forms and shapes, been parts of mountains, come down streams, rolled around in people's houses, packaged and sold at Michael's, and now arriving here. All right, and as we start to settle in and do this, I'd like to invite you to join me in singing hymn 1031. If you know it, it's May You Be Filled with Loving Kindness. I think we can even sing it a cappella. We can try. Maybe someone who's really good on pitch. Yes, here we go. It's I, you, we, and all. So. Seated.
So, a few months ago, Cord introduced us to the idea of wintering, a period of dormancy, of quiet retreat, and gentle reflection. As the world slows, it urges us to follow suit. We embrace this hibernation, turning inward and gathering strength. Wintering teaches us patience, resilience, and the art of preparation. In a world of uncertainty, global unrest, political tension, and economic fluctuation, wintering becomes more than a metaphor. It becomes a survival strategy. As winter loosens its grip, a transformation begins. The dormant earth reawakens. Buds push through hardened soil. Trees stretch toward a warming sun, and animals emerge from their dens. This renewal is powerful, reminding us of our inherent capacity to begin anew. Consider the recent Fighting Oligarchy tour that has seen citizens across the nation rallying for change, advocating for economic justice and democratic integrity. Just as nature awakens from its slumber, these movements signify a collective stirring, a desire to cultivate a more equitable society. Springtime arrives, vibrant and brimming with purpose. Easter's symbolism is potent, life triumphing over death, hope breaking through despair, and light vanquishing darkness. We emerge from our wintering changed, ready to embrace life's battles once more. This spirit of rebirth echoes in NASA's Artemis II mission. We're on the cusp of returning to the moon. It's a reminder, resurrection isn't just about returning. It's about going forward, renewed and reoriented. Like green shoots bravely pushing upward, we too rise, refreshed and resilient, poised to fight the battles we set aside during our season of rest. We embody the same resilience we observe in the blossoming world. Each flower blooming and bird returning reflects our own renewed spirits. Remember Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father deported to El Salvador. Now imprisoned, his story underscores the fragility of justice and the persistence required to confront systemic failures. His plight calls to us to extend our renewed strength toward advocating for those treated unjustly, ensuring that the promise of spring's renewal is accessible to all. Spring reminds us that cycles of retreat and emergence are essential to our growth. We look quietly within, reminding ourselves what is worth fighting for. We rest not because we are weak, but to rebuild our strength and sharpen our resolve. Every Easter, we celebrate not only rebirth, but also our continual personal renewal. We see this renewal stirring in students across the country, raising their voices over the violence in Gaza. Their courage to speak and challenge power comes from a place of conviction. It's a reminder that before we stand, we must first know what we stand for. Resurrection is not passive. It calls us to rise with a purpose. Yet renewal alone is not enough. Our awakening must become action. The resilience we've cultivated through wintering now calls us forward to confront the shadows of injustice and division with clarity and courage. As people of the rising season, we harness our strength in tangible resistance, speaking truth, standing for the vulnerable, and building with love. Together, we rise, not merely to endure, but to transform, to shape the world not as it is, but as it should be, rooted in justice, sustained by mercy, and blooming with hope. Thank you.
So during the Council of Nicaea in 325, it was decreed that Easter should be observed on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox, which is March 21st. Prior to this very important meeting of like-minded folks, wait, actually they weren't really like-minded. Prior to that particular meeting of people deeply committed to being right and willing to harangue, argue, and exile one another in order to prove their rightness, celebration of the resurrection was 2 days after Passover, which is always 14 Nisan in the Jewish calendar. But since the Jewish calendar is based on the moon cycle and the Romans were on the Gregorian or solar calendar, that meant that Easter often fell midweek. And well, that's just not convenient for anyone trying to form a church. As an aside, can you actually really imagine getting on board with Easter in August or February? Those seasons just don't jive with the whole renewal and revival of hope and the announcement of good news for all of humanity. And also, so many other traditions already had week-long and month-long celebrations. And maybe it's an early example of FOMO, right? We just had 1 day for Christmas and 1 day for Easter, and we needed to expand that in order to be like all the others who were far more ancient than us. At any rate, I think the story goes that the marketing team for Sunday Easter at Nicaea won over the sales team, and the date upon which the tomb was found empty and the Christ risen was, and as prophesied in the scriptures, was fixed, dare I say, in stone. Happy Easter, y'all. The story of Jesus' death and resurrection in its various forms. Most of us know that the 4 Gospels in the Bible do not all agree with one another, and that there are many more Gospels than those that are included in the traditional Bible as we know it here in the modern world. This story has been told and retold again and again for over 2,000 years now. And like all stories in the public domain, it has come to mean many different things to people over the years, and the disagreements about its interpretation, primacy, and role in culture has meant that it is both a source of inspiration as well as a tool of repression. If we give the story itself, just the story itself, the benefit of the doubt, we can see that it is a story written to awaken people to the presence of a radical love that sees, hears, knows, and blesses them, not in spite of their imperfections, but in sacred relationship with them. It is meant to inspire and to build a beloved community of spiritual seekers and justice makers. This is a story written by people under the rule of a very violent, capricious, and cruel empire. Crucifixions were not an uncommon form of death in the Roman Empire. Some sources suggest that tens of thousands of people were crucified, with some mass crucifixions involving thousands crucified in a single day. It was often used for slaves, criminals, and enemies of the state, of which Jesus of Nazareth was one, and served as a public display and a deterrent. Thus, this story is meant to remind people that despite the difficulty and fear and the reality of living underneath the rule of ruthless people, that God is still with them, even unto and beyond death, and that cruelty will not have the final word. I also find it fascinating, as I prepare for this Sunday, to think about the role of the people who were surrounding Jesus during his ministry, during this time of trial, and in the weeks and months following his death and resurrection. In Luke's gospel, the word friend or friends appears 45 times. And in Matthew's gospel, it appears 102 times. Between those two, nearly 150 times, the word friend or friends occurs. Many of us, I don't think about the friendship involved in this ministry and the people who Jesus had close to him and what it meant for those friends to lose their beloved teacher, mentor, and companion. So it seems fair to say that this story is also finally a story written by a group of friends in honor of their friend whom they loved deeply. Here are their names: Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Zacchaeus, Martha and Mary of Bethany, and of course, Lazarus. Those friends together went on to create a community despite the loss of their beloved companion. They went on to create a community and series of communities that were not in agreement, but meant in the heart to honor the teachings of their beloved friend and to demonstrate to the world that hope can endure even when it seems impossible, and that your friends, while still very imperfect, can be counted to be there for you. It is a powerful story, perhaps one of the earliest stories of chosen family. Among that list of friends are not his blood relatives. They are his chosen family. This story has been part of our culture for so long. And while many of us in this room may have had some interaction with a story that may not feel that great, it is a story that for millions of people is held close to the heart, and it is foundational in their lives. It serves as the literal ground of being upon which they build lives of meaning, worth, dignity, recovery, and friendship. It informs their service to the world at large and has inspired many, many justice movements over the centuries. The story, of course, has also been used to collect and concentrate powers for the purposes of dominance, the Council of Nicaea being just one of many, many examples of an effort to consolidate power and to focus Christianity, not for the benefit of the masses, but for the consolidation of power in the hands of a few. And this effort has cost many millions of lives over the centuries and harmed countless others, including some of you here in this room. It's difficult to hold that truth. But we are a community of people that can do hard things together. I would guess that many of you, if not most of you, are here because you actually believe that the gospel of Jesus is true. You actually believe that everyone is welcome into the beloved community. In that biblical language, they would say the kingdom of God. In our modern language, we would say the beloved community. You actually believe that. If you don't believe it, keep listening. You actually believe that beloved community matters and that everyone should be welcome, not just welcome to be at the edges, but to be at the table and to belong. And I'm guessing that when you walked in here for the first time and heard our words inviting you to be here and to belong, you got very excited. Because maybe, just maybe, you had found a tribe of people to belong with and to. A community that would welcome you no matter the color of your eyes, your skin, your hair, no matter your abilities, your gender identity, who you love, how you speak. You remember those words that we say most Sundays. Whatever you believe and how you think about the nature of God or not God, you believe, you are committed to the practice of building beloved community and its basis in friendship. You were very excited when you walked in here and over time realized that actually there's no gotcha at the end of our sales pitch. You're just free to be yourself. And that's what's brought you back every Sunday since. And your presence here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday is what holds us collectively accountable to that shared statement of beloved welcome and belonging that we read each Sunday morning. So when I step back and view the story of the death and resurrection of Jesus this time and in this context this year, I see friendship. I see the friendship that he has forged with his chosen family and the multitude of others that flock to hear his good news, find healing, and be a part of the community of seekers. And in doing so, I see that we too are modeling our community as such, a place of healing, a place of finding and sharing good news, a finding and sharing of friendship across generations and across the decades of our participation. Jesus lived in a time and place where cruelty and violence were common tools used to control and manage the people who refused to toe an imperial line, where obeying in advance to an authoritarian regime was a law of the land. And he spoke up anyway. He paid a terrible price. And yet God's love was so great that despite the fear and suffering and death, it is told to us that Jesus rose again and appeared to the women at the tomb in a magnificent overturning of death to demonstrate that truly love does win. And then the story goes on that Jesus appears to his friends to lead them through their grief and live on. Now, around here, we do not understand the death of Jesus as a necessary atonement for humanity's sins. We reject atonement theology. And we, of course, do not expect anyone here to martyr themselves for any cause. We understand, rather, that his crucifixion is indeed the tragedy that it is. We seek to honor his teachings for the insight they may offer us, and we leave the mystery of the resurrection as just that, a mystery, and perhaps an invitation to wonder what it all means and how we might live and love fully one another in the years that we have in this life. And we trust in Unitarian Universalist circles that this is surely enough to get us into heaven, should there in fact be such a place as that. I think the men and women who called Jesus friend were lucky, yes? They got to be in relationship with a human being of such clear sight, a deeply generous heart and healing hands, a man who loved the world with his whole being, even unto his own death. Through their relationships with Jesus and one another, they were transformed towards love, justice, compassion, and hope for a better world. When their friend died, they mourned deeply. But the grief was not the end. They determined that the powerful elites would not, in fact, have the last word. They would rise again. And so they did. And my friends, so shall we. For we are the ones we have been waiting for, and together, in friendship, we shall rise again and overcome. Amen. return your rocks to the water, be reminded that friendship comes from the deep well of love that is at the heart of this community. And going forward, as we participate in our joys and sorrows in the weeks and months to come, know that these rocks have been warmed by the hands and the hearts of your friends that are here. May that hand of friendship extend to you, offer you presence and kindness, a hug when you need it, and a smile for your face. And as you finally return to your seats, let's rise one more time and extinguish our chalice and receive our benediction. I invite you to either extend your hands in friendship to someone near you, or to place your hands over your heart if that is more comfortable with you, and to think of all the friends and the friendship that you have here and beyond these walls. Let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. You may be seated for the postlude, and happy Easter, reminding the children to please gather in the backyard after the postlude for the hunt for justice.